What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the all-new 2022 Subaru Outback Wilderness and the 2022 Subaru Outback Onyx Edition XT. So if you guys have missed my full review of the 2022 Outback Wilderness, definitely check the card above or the link in the description. There are some noticeable differences on the exterior designs of the Wilderness here that are going to be exclusive to that. Same with the Onyx a little bit, but I wanted to do a visual comparison between these two models because when I first saw the Wilderness announced, I was like, wait, why do they need that? They already have the Onyx. Like, it's got the rugged and all that kind of stuff. Well, the Wilderness took it to a different level, as you'll probably see in this comparison. But I thought this would be an important comparison video. So if you guys are shopping these two models for your outdoors, wildernessy type of needs, you'll be able to see what the major similarities and differences are. So let's get into it. So as you may have noticed just by me standing next to these vehicles, the ground clearance difference is noticeable. The Wilderness has 9.5 inches of ground clearance, whereas the Onyx Edition XT here only has 8.7 inches of ground clearance. Now I say only, that's still incredible. Subarus are known for their ground clearance, 8.7 inches almost across the board, but the Wilderness took it up a notch, an additional 0.8 inches of ground clearance here. And you can just, I mean, you can tell looking at them, but you can also tell probably on camera. There's no elevation changes here. The Wilderness is just sitting higher overall. That's one of those like on the road, driving by kind of noticeable differences. Additionally, you'll notice there's an exclusive grille over on the Wilderness. So you have this hexagonal grille over here, whereas you just have a standard grille over on the Onyx XT. Additionally, you have a glossy black wing here off of the Subaru badge where you have this kind of open matte black grille insert and wings over here on the Wilderness. Big old Subaru badge is exactly the same. They both have the same 180-degree front-facing camera as well. They both have the same LED headlights with the high beam assist. They both have LED fog lights, but you'll notice that the Onyx XT's fog lights are down here and they're just kind of a normal shape, whereas the Wilderness has these super sick kind of Gatling gun looking LED fog lights down at the bottom there. So nice little touch on the Wilderness, but they do both have LED fog. So functionally they're the same, they just visually look different. Also, you'll notice the cladding is different. So they both have the same kind of matte plastic black cladding, but there's a body panel gap between the cladding and the headlights here on the Onyx XT, whereas on the Wilderness, it goes all the way up to the headlights to be more rugged, more off-roadsy. Same kind of grille opening with a little bit of a textured piece at the bottom where you have that hexagonal grille over here on the Wilderness. And you have these copper accents on the touch points of the Wilderness, whereas on the Onyx, you do not have that at all. They both have the 2.4-liter turbocharged boxer engine, 260 horsepower, 277 pound-feet of torque. Now, the mileage is a little bit different. Over on the Wilderness, you have 26 miles per gallon highway, 22 miles per gallon city, and that's mainly different because of the different suspension. Whereas over on the Onyx XT, you get 30 miles per gallon highway, 23 miles per gallon city. So just keep that in mind. They both have standard eyesight driver assist with a plethora of safety features, which is fantastic. Also, you'll notice that the Onyx does not have that accent on the hood, whereas the Wilderness does have that matte black decal. That's supposed to keep the sun from reflecting. I think it's just for aesthetic purposes, but you do not have it here on the Onyx, so definitely makes the Wilderness stand out even more. Also, you may notice on the wheel wells here, the cladding is significantly different. The Onyx has just this standard black cladding around the wheel wells, whereas the Wilderness has this bolstered cladding that's much thicker and protrudes a little bit. Also, the wheels are different. So you've got Yokohama tires on both sides, but you got the Geolander tires over here on the Wilderness, and the Wilderness sits on 17-inch matte black alloy wheels, whereas the Onyx XT here sits on 18-inch gloss black aluminum wheels. So definitely a little bit of a visual difference there. The matte black wheels are rugged and exclusive to the Wilderness here. If we keep moving back, you'll notice there's no badging here on the Onyx, but you do have the Subaru Wilderness badge over on the Wilderness itself. Another noticeable difference is the mirror caps. The Onyx XT here has gloss black mirror caps with a glossy chrome trim that runs all around the windows and all on the side mirrors, whereas over on the Wilderness, you have a matte black trim that runs around the windows and matte black mirror caps. They both have integrated turn signals. They're both heated, manual folding, and they both have blind spot monitoring. So they functionally are the same, but visually have a good bit of differences there as far as the color and trim goes. They both have keyless access on the door panels, and they both have the same exact cladding that runs around the bottom of the door panels, but the Outback badging you'll notice is different. Over on the Wilderness, it's that copper color, whereas over on the Onyx XT here, it is a brushed silver Outback logo. Now up top, they both have the smaller sunroof, so not a panoramic roof or even have the option for that at all, just a standard small sunroof. Another huge difference is the roof rails. So over on the Wilderness, they have an upgraded ladder style roof rail system with these copper accents for the touch points, but the roof rails over on the Wilderness are capable of holding 700 pounds of static load, 200 pounds of dynamic load, whereas you just don't have that option over on the Onyx XT. It's got the removable crossbars that you can adjust. You still have a decent load capacity on these roof rails, but it's about half what you get over on the Wilderness. So something to keep in mind if you do want to go camping in these things. So moving on to the tailgates of both of these Outbacks, again, you will notice there's a significant height difference here between the Onyx XT and the Wilderness. The Wilderness is jacked up with that almost 1 inch additional ground clearance. You also have more cladding back here. As you can tell, it goes up further. It actually connects to the taillights, whereas you have, again, a body panel in between the cladding and the taillights over on the Onyx XT. Again, much more aggressive lines here. You do have parking sensors on both these models. You have reflectors, they're just in a little bit of a different spot. And then you have those touch points there for kind of rear hooks as well. They both have the same towing capacity of 3,500 pounds, so you're not missing out there at all. They both have the same black cladding that goes around the tail lights here. They are just a normal like halogen tail light, they're nothing special. They both have spoilers, they both have the rear windows here with the wipers. They both have the awesome powder black Subaru badging, symmetrical all-wheel drive badging, and Outback badging. Only main difference here is the Wilderness here has the Wilderness logo itself, whereas you just have the XT badge here to let you know that you do have the Onyx XT, or at least an XT. You do have a power liftgate on both options, again, which is super nice. They have the same cargo capacity as you'd probably expect. They're the same size, so 191 inches long still on both of them. You do have a full-size spare tire under both of these, so no real concern there if you do take these off-road and something does happen. The only noticeable difference between the two tailgates is that over on the Wilderness, you do have the LED light up underneath, where you do not have that over on the Onyx XT. That just allows you to see into your trunk if you're loading it at night. But other than that, they're just about the same, outside of obviously the visual design of the cladding and the copper accents over on the Wilderness. And you can close the tailgates nice and easy with these buttons here. Let's hop inside the cabins. All right, so here inside the cabin of the Onyx XT first, we're not gonna really be talking about how all these different features work necessarily. We're just gonna be mainly looking at the visual differences between the two cabins, because as far as feature sets, they're almost exactly the same, but I'll definitely point out when they're not. But if you want a full review of this 11.6 inch display and some of the technology found in it, I've got a couple of videos. I've got one very detailed video talking about every little thing that's in here. I'll have that linked above and in the description. And I have a video talking about the updates to CarPlay in the more full screen portrait mode version. Definitely check that out as well down in the description and in the card above. But they both have a push to start engine here, same button, same everything. So your main visual differences are going to be material placement, textures, and colors, right? So functionally speaking, you have the same exact steering wheel here. It just has, instead of having that colored accent, you just have a silver accent, and you have silver accent stitching that runs around it. Same advanced adaptive cruise control, lane centering, paddle shifters, media controls on the left side. Materials on the inside are just about the same too. You have some glossy and different colored elements, like I said. Same 11.6 inch infotainment screen with the same functionality. You have the dual function X mode still with snow and dirt, normal, and deep snow and mud. The only main difference on the infotainment screen here is you do not have the roll axis indicator that you have over there on the Wilderness, and you do not have the Wilderness graphics package, obviously, because this is an Onyx XT and that wouldn't make any sense. But if you go to car info and then you go to your advanced package, you can see that this in fact is a rendering of your car, not the car we have over there. So that's really the only main difference. Functionally, it's exactly the same outside of those graphics packages. But let's talk about the main noticeable difference, and that is the textures and materials. So you have this gray soft touch StarTex material on the glove box, and it wraps all the way around. It's on the door panels as well. More of a black soft touch kind of leather material, so it's got the two-tone look that matches the seats, and it has the kind of bright green accent stitching that you really either love or hate. Luckily, it's not on the rest of the trim, so really the only place you see it is on the seats and on the center console and armrests and you know, some of these accented pieces over here. Another main difference here on the Onyx XT is you actually have a satin piece that wraps around the infotainment center, where over there you have a gunmetal gray piece. That same color continues onto the Lineartronic CVT here, and you have a little bit of a satin accent on the shift knob itself with more of that leatherette and that gray accent stitching as well. Same electronic parking brake, same 180-degree front-facing camera option, 2 USB-A ports, 3.5mm jack. Now the Onyx XT here does not have the wireless charging pad, at least not in this one we're looking at. Same little pocket there, but the difference here is you don't have that faux carbon fiber look like you do over there. You have a glossy piano black look. Also, the headliner up here is a gray headliner where it is a black headliner over there, so that is a noticeable difference, but it's the same texture. Now the seating surfaces are a little bit different, but mostly visually. They're both a StarTex weather repellent material, but this has a two-tone with a gray and a black with the green accent stitching and no kind of textured pattern at all. Whereas you have a solid black over there with a hexagonal pattern in it, so that really sets it apart. You also don't have any badging on the headrest, where you have a Wilderness badge over there on that headrest. But other than that, all the functionality is the same, your button placement's the same. It's really just a visual difference minus those few little accents here on the gauge cluster and the infotainment center. But let's go ahead and jump over to the 2022 Outback Wilderness. Alrighty, so jumping back into the 2022 Wilderness cabin, again, really what you're gonna notice most is just how relaxed and understated this cabin is compared even to the Onyx XT. You have a lot fewer colors in here, really. It's just this simplified matte black, matte gray kind of color to it. You have this black liner up top. It's the same material, but it's just different color, much more understated, a lot easier to clean. You have the same steering wheel. All the placement is the same. It's just the accents that are different. Again, you have that copper little swoop on the bottom of the steering wheel. All of the chrome accents over on the Onyx Edition steering wheel have been replaced with this gunmetal gray accent, and that theme just runs across the entirety of the cabin. But functionally, media controls, adaptive cruise control system with lane centering, your paddle shifters, all the same. It's just a looks thing. You also have that copper stitching that runs around the steering wheel. And then past that on the gauge cluster, you do have that little copper ring around your analog gauges. And then if you use the standard push to start button, you do get a little Wilderness badge on the actual little gauge cluster. As far as other cabin materials, it's very, very similar to what you have over on the Onyx XT. You have this different colored material. It's the same kind of StarTex material with the accent stitching here. You also have this faux carbon fiber instead of the piano black on this pocket above the glove box. Same felt line glove box though. And again, that gunmetal gray accent runs around the infotainment display, around the Lineartronic CVT right here, around the vents as well, and then it makes its way over onto the door panels as well. You do have a little tiny copper Subaru Wilderness tag right here on the side. And again, a solid black versus like the gray color and with the green accent stitching that you have over on the Onyx XT. You just have black with black stitching. Around where the door handles are, you do have this faux carbon fiber texture again. On the Lineartronic CVT shift knob here, you do have the piano black that kind of runs around, and then you have this copper accent with the leatherette and the copper accent stitching on the actual bottom of the shift knob, but functionally it's the same. Electronic parking brake, 180-degree front-facing camera is exactly the same. 3.5mm jack, 2 USB-A ports is the same. This does have that Qi-enabled charging pad. Like I mentioned, that one does not, but you may be able to add it as an option. Now, as far as the couple accents that you get that you do not have on the Onyx XT, up where the X mode button is on your infotainment display, you'll see your rendering is actually a Wilderness trim. You can tell because it has the little copper accents and the extended cladding. Also, if you go into the car info and go to driving statistics, you can see you have a roll axis indicator now on this screen that you do not have over on the Onyx XT. Then if you go to advanced package, it'll show that rendering of your car, same as you get over on the Onyx XT, but you can tell this rendering is actually your car, the Wilderness trim, because you can tell, again, extra cladding, adjusted front lights, the little Gatling gun, LED, fog lights with the copper accents. So you can tell this is the Wilderness. Again, like I said, you also have that Wilderness badge on the little 4.2-inch cluster up between the gauges. One other noticeable difference is, again, the seating surfaces. These are not a two-tone StarTex, they're just a full black StarTex seating surface. Have the Subaru Wilderness badge on the headrest right here, this hexagonal textured pattern that feels really nice to touch. and then it has this copper accent stitching that runs all the way around. Same lack of Harman Kardon premium audio system. You're stuck with just the standard audio system on the Onyx and the Wilderness. You also have these little aluminum pedal caps, which look really nice over here on the Wilderness. But that's just about all the differences between the two. Now, again, if you want to see a full review of the 2022 Wilderness, plus watch me maybe drive it for a little bit, take it a little bit off-road, definitely check the card above or the link in the description. I did a full review on that. In my full review, I also talk about the different approach angles that have been changed between the two and the final drive ratio and things like that. But if you're interested in all that information, again, that sets the Wilderness apart mechanically from the Onyx XT, definitely check my full review. I've also done a full review on the Onyx XT. If you're interested, I'll have that linked below as well. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Drop a like on the video if you loved it. Tell me in the comments down below, which do you prefer? You a Wilderness fan? You an Onyx XT fan? You like both of them? Let's have a conversation down in the comments. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be among the first to see every single new video the second I hit publish. We'll see you in the next one.